very special guest, 2018 Olympic champion in the two-man bobsled. He's somebody that's transitioned into an incredible career as well. And he's also one of our trusted USANA athletes, Mr. Alex Kopacy. Alex, how are you, buddy?
Very well. It's nice to see you guys again.
It's good to see you. We got to spend some time in Mexico where we were hanging out, and I got to pick your brain. And I just got to tell you how impressed I was with your understanding of the skills that you learned as an athlete and how that applies to entrepreneurship. So this is going to be a little bit of fun. Now, just before we dive into that, I want people to be able to get to know you a little bit better, like I got to know you. So first and foremost, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of a town that was.
Yeah, so London, Ontario, as you mentioned, not London, England. It's an interesting mix between a big city and a small town, quite literally. We're about 2 hours away from Detroit and 2 hours away from Toronto. And I can't tell you why, but a lot of athletes live here. And we have an incredible history of having really good high performance athletes come out of London, Ontario. So my upbringing was a lot of outdoors, scout type things, swimming in the wintertime, a lot of soccer, or football, I should say. And then I slowly got stronger and bigger and got exposed to American football. And then I got to track and field, and that opened the doors right over to Olympic sport like bobsled.
I love it. Okay, so if we were hanging out and I was going to cook you your favorite meal, what would your favorite meal be?
Oh, I'm a sucker for a well-cooked steak, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm having tonight. I like that choice. Okay, so you talked about track and field, and then you obviously ended up really excelling in the two-man bobsled, which, by the way, is the craziest sport you've ever seen. If you don't know what it is, it's somebody who jumps on a plank of wood with ice skates on and throws himself down to, I don't know how many miles an hour, but it's a lot, and go fast. So if you could snap your fingers and could have competed in any other Olympic sport, which one would it have been?
I would have loved to have given Olympic weightlifting a run. The idea of seeing someone at their absolute pinnacle strength is absolutely breathtaking. And especially the weights, the courage, it's an all or nothing. That weight will pin you and probably break you if you don't catch it. I love it.
Wow, that's a good point. That makes sense because you kind of see it from your thing. But you are like Superman, right? You got your Clark Kent glasses on, but you are very.
Wait, now do you recognize me? Sorry, guys, I should have started here.
Okay, so the opposite of that, what is one Olympic sport that you absolutely would never have wanted to compete in?
I like the idea of ski jumping, but I'll be honest, the injury risk, to me, it's pretty off-putting.
All right, let's jump in and share some real nuggets of wisdom, because you're just somebody that has this wealth of knowledge. And one of the things that you and I talked about that I wanted to revisit with our audience of Pacesetter Masterclass today is, you know, as you look at your journey and what you've had to overcome with injuries, and you know, it's not cheap trying to be an Olympic athlete, right? And trying to find all that sponsorship and things like that. What was it that really kept you going? Like you got knockback after knockback, and our entrepreneurs on the call today are also going to experience that, right? But how do you keep going and keep going through those tough days and those tough times to still make it up to be an Olympic world champion?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I was always so obsessed about trying to make it to the Olympics. And I guess in comparison, that would be like saying, I want to make my business self-sustaining and successful. Winning a gold medal is like when you make that $1 million mark, and wouldn't that be amazing? But I was so obsessed about trying to make the Olympic Games and represent my family, because we first generation immigrants from Poland and didn't come from a whole lot. So that was to me something that I wanted to make a statement on. And as I got deeper and deeper into the journey, the things that got me through a lot of those bumps in the road had to do with really good support. So the right mentorship, the right team around me. I would have never made it as far as I did without my coach, Olaf Hampel. Him and his family, they were also good to me while I lived in Germany. They were my parents away from home, which is a very special thing if someone can ever find that. And having that guidance and having that clear drive, it's shocking how much pain you're willing to take. Every day you wake up, your body hurts. This is Olympic sport. You have to train hard all the time, but you have that right person that you want to impress. I wanted to make Olaf proud every single day. Like he was a two-time gold medalist himself, and I wanted him to feel like I wasn't wasting his time.
Love
That's
it.
awesome.
Man,
Yeah, that's
man, I could unpack so much within that, but having the right mentor and having that grit and determination, coming back to what we talked about with beginning with the end in mind. That was awesome. Thank you much.
yeah, no, Alex, that was so good because we always talking about coaches, and I always see in athletics that top athletes always have a coach, but I think it's so important for entrepreneurs to have a coach, and it kind of breeds that here at USANA with uplines and their leadership. So what I'm curious about is the lessons that you learned as an athlete and a gold medal athlete. How are you taking those lessons into your shift to entrepreneurship and expanding on that?
Well, definitely some of that ground foundation, as I mentioned before, having that right mentor. The thing that's funny, that's different from sport, is it's harder to find a very good mentor in business. And this could because they are in either different types of businesses from yours. They may not understand it as well. Their backgrounds are completely different. In my case, with my coach, he was a bobsledder as well. So there's a lot of relatability. So one thing that I've been constantly working towards is trying to find that absolute perfect fit in the form of a mentor that has a little bit of that athletic understanding, as well as that transition into entrepreneurship. Um, my coach told me after I retired that although I'm no longer an athlete full time, what I should do is still remember that I am an athlete regardless, and that I should do something every day that reminds me of the athlete that I am. So I'll spend some time, either 5 minutes, 20 minutes, either I'm in the gym trying to lift some weights, or I'll be doing some of my track and field drills to bring me back to that time, to kind of keep that part of me alive and awake. And it energizes me. And so definitely what I've learned in the last 3.5, almost 4 years of entrepreneurship is that you in one day can have 3 wins and 2 losses. And that's very different from sport, because sport, you have 1 win or 1 loss that day. It's rare that you're going to have multiple shots every single day. And there's so many different aspects of the business where you have wins and losses. You could have a great customer service call. You could have a great sales. You could have someone call and complain about something, and that can all happen right back to back to back to back. Now, where this relates to sport is being able to take those losses and stand back up again. What I always appreciated about sport is how physical it is, understanding how much you can absolutely tolerate from a pain perspective. And this makes your mind strong. And I feel like even strength training, whether or not you're an athlete or playing any sport, is that same training. I'm sure everyone is familiar with a back squat. This is probably one of the best full body exercises and yet most painful. And doing it and forcing yourself to go through it in and of itself is an act of some type of very interesting, painful meditation. And this helps push through those hard times. So from that athlete transition into now, I keep leaning on the physicality of how a business is. You have to be in good shape. The hours that you'll be working are all over the place. I mean, I'm 7 days a week full time. Every waking minute I'm thinking about this, unless I'm forcing myself to take a break. And if your health isn't there and it's not up to par, that will be your limiting factor. And I also found my particular journey in sport taught me to be creative and bold. And with that, I've tried to be as creative and bold in this business. I'm not afraid to speak to anyone, regardless of their station or who they are, because a lot of times those people will be shocked that you're even bothering to ask. And they will shock you by being willing to give you their time and perhaps connect you with someone that might be that next big salesperson. I also try to lean on using my instincts. Meeting people, it's very much a feeling thing. We have to use our stomachs as much as we have to use our minds. And if your stomach's telling you something different than what your mind's telling you, then maybe you should think twice about the relationship you're about to jump into, or the business decision you're about to make. And more often than not, it can steer you in a really good way. And that's something that I'm reminded constantly from my one of my mentors in the Netherlands. He always says, "Alex, use your stomach. That's the first thing we should be reaching for." But yeah, there's ups and downs, just like in sport. And if you don't have someone that's going to cheer you up, remind you that you can do this, or if you can't see your small wins, it can be a very dangerous and lonely endeavor. And so having a good network of friends that are either in similar types of businesses or lifestyles as you, or at least being familiar with those that are in your space, because entrepreneurship can be a lonely road.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I was just about to say the one thing that's coming through is you can just tell that you surrounded yourself with the right people. Like you had that network, that community, right, of like-minded people. And so when you were having a down day, there was someone to pick you up. And when they were having a down day, you were there to pick them up. And, you know, talking about mentors, and you're right, it is hard to find a great mentor. And it's probably one of the things I enjoy most about USANA and the direct selling industry that we've actively chosen to be in. Is when you join USANA, when you introduce new people to USANA and your team, they're coming into this ready-made community of like-minded people who are working towards a similar goal. And you've got an upline. We just had one of our other speakers talking about grace on three-way calls. Somebody there to be there to support you and help you. And so I think that's really, really crucial.
Yeah, no, I like what you talked about, Alex, as far as having that anchor, right? You always go back to your athlete time, right, as you move forward in entrepreneurship. And I think that's really important. So as we kind of wrap up these questions, how do we help the USANA associate, right? Most USANA associates aren't Olympic athletes. So how do we take your experience and help them in their business as a USANA associate? You've met a lot of USANA associates, you know, kind of their day-to-day. So how can they take your experience and background and implement that into their business day-to-day?
A lot of the ones that I've met, they're actually quite athletic themselves. We probably are closer to Olympic athletes than you ever thought. The one core thing is, I mean, I'm very well aware that USADA has a very clear and good training plan. Sure, everyone's training plan will have to be tailored to themselves, and that's where some of the mentors in USADA might be able to kind of tweak that for you further. But you have to do those reps every day. You have to do your squats, even though you know it's going to hurt, and even though you're going to hear no's. And you have to be curious. I don't think it's enough just following the template the coach gives you. You should read, research, catch up, see what's going on in the world, stay up to date, whether they be technology tools. I know in the last presentation, there was even kind of references into how to leverage using like TikTok and other tools like this. We are surrounded by incredible training tools that we can use to improve our performance weekly. So staying creative, staying disciplined on doing those reps, get your squats in, and making sure to check in with your friends, your support community. Even doing something as simple as once a week. I'm very much passionate about the book Traction, and trying to have a very clear, structured meeting if you have a lot of people in your team to see where everyone's at, make sure everyone's in the right place. In bobsled, it's important to know if you should be pushing on the right side of the sled, the left side, the back. Should you be getting in first, second, third? As soon as everyone knows what their role is and where they should be pushing from to give the best for the team, that's when you have the fastest starts. And if you can combine all those things together, then I believe you will all have very strong teams.
Yeah, I love that. I think what I take away from that is, don't forget the basic stuff, right? Doing the squats. Yeah, that can be hard, and you can say, I don't want to do it, but it's the basic things every day, right? Staying in connection with your team, checking in with the team, but doing those basic things on a daily basis is really what's going to lead to that consistency and ultimately the results that everyone's looking for. So Alex, we really appreciate your time, appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been just invaluable for us. So thank you so much.